We've arrived at the midpoint of the Harry Potter video game series, Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. This game was released in November of 2005 for the Xbox, PS2, GameCube, Game Boy Advance, PC, and for the first time a Potter title was released onto the Nintendo DS and PlayStation Portable. After two solid entries in the franchise, EA, for whatever reason, decided to hit the reset button and implement an entirely new system for Goblet of Fire. Now, innovation is not always a bad thing, but then there's the other saying that if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Clearly, EA was onto something with the last two titles, so it boggles the mind as to why they felt the need to go in a completely different direction. Hardly any of the past gameplay mechanics are retained for Goblet, and what is here is so simplistic that it's definitely aiming at a younger audience than the previous games were. Once again, we're going to be looking at the Xbox version. The story plays out a bit differently than the last two games. There are no more cutscenes with character models. Instead, the game now reverts back to still images that are narrated. So the fourth Potter game has regressed back to the first Potter game in terms of its storytelling. Still images will work fine for a PlayStation 1 title, but this is an Xbox game. The developers could have easily showed a little effort and made actual cutscenes with specific characters. You only actually see Harry, Ron, and Hermione and Mad-Eye Moody as actual character models. All of the other characters only really appear within the still images. Thanks to these still image sections, almost half of the plot is cut out. The free roam Hogwarts is gone, and in its place is the Pensieve, which you'll select a level that you wish to enter. And not counting the opening level that takes place at the Quidditch World Cup, which you can't replay anyway, there are 4 levels in addition to 3 based on the Triwizard task. You'll be exploring the Hogwarts exterior, the Forbidden Forest, the Prefect's bathroom, and the Herbology greenhouse. And there's a final level that pits you up against Lord Voldemort in the graveyard. So altogether, there are just 8 levels. 8 lousy levels. And really, it's just the Hogwarts exterior, the Forbidden Forest, the Prefect's bathroom, and the Herbology greenhouse, since you'll probably only play each of the Triwizard tasks the one time. The main goal in Goblet is to collect Triwizard shields, and there's a bunch of them in each level, and you'll have to collect one each time you enter a level. This means you'll spend most of the game backtracking through levels searching for shields. The annoying thing about this is not so much the backtracking to the levels you've been to, since there are usually multiple paths to take in each level. It's just that sometimes to get back to where you saw another shield, you'll have to move through the same obstacles you fixed the first time through. Like on the Hogwarts exterior roofs, when you have to use the exploding cauldrons to break through a wall, you have to break through this wall each time you pass through the level, and it gets annoying repeating the same functions over and over again each time you go through a level. Spellcasting has become quite simplistic to say the least. Gone is assigning a spell to a face button, and in its place is a little system I like to call the auto spellcasting system. Now when you approach hazards in the environment, like a bridge that's up or a fire that's burning, a simple press of the X button will cause the appropriate spell to be used, whether it's pulling down that bridge or putting out that flame. Enemies are brought down by mashing the A button, which is a standard Jinx spell. All enemies are killed by the Jinx, providing little incentive to use other spells to attack them. The Y button is now mapped for the Accios charm, which can summon beans and other rewards to you, like health items. You'll learn only one spell during the course of the game, which is used to access areas that were unreachable in the early sections of the game. The spells in this game are Carpe Retractum, which can pull down bridges and move obstacles out of the way, Aguamente, which can put out flames, and Herbificus, which can make plants grow. Now, there are other spells in the game, and I would show them like I have in the past videos, but most of the other spells are only used when one of the other 3 spells I mentioned is being used first on an enemy. You'll never really know which spell you're casting, and it doesn't really matter, because it's not like one spell is more effective than the other. In fact, as I said before, all enemies can easily be killed by the standard Jinx spell, removing any need to try and use any of the other spells. Whenever enemies appear, the game becomes a brainless button masher, with you just mashing the A button as quickly as you can for you to get up and move on. Beans also return, but Fred and George are nowhere to be seen this time. Beans are now used to buy cards, which seems to replace the wizard card collecting from the last 3 games. These cards have different effects, like raising a character's health bar, making your Jinx stronger, or extending the Magicus Extremis bar at the bottom of the screen. And this bar allows you to basically enter God mode and spam an even larger Jinx on enemies. The cards can be auto-assigned or assigned by the player, though again, since Goblet is another easy entry in the Potter series, there's no real reason to assign the card yourself and waste time picking them, since they have very little effect on the gameplay. The game also allows you to play as the trio again, though you can't switch between them anymore on the fly. You get to select who you want to play as before you enter a level. However, it no longer matters who you play as, since each character plays exactly the same, unlike the last title. A new feature added is that now some spells must be performed cooperatively. Some rocks are too large for Harry to Wingardium Leviosa on his own, or bridges are too hard to pull down, so you'll need help from Ron and Hermione. This becomes mostly annoying due to the AI's incompetence. It's okay when you're pulling down a bridge and you just need help from one of them, but if you try to lift up a giant cube, you'll need all 3 characters in order to do it. If just one of them doesn't help, you'll lose the spell and drop whatever you're holding. But at most times the AI will stand there confused on what they're supposed to do. Like here. Ron, you want to help? Any day now. You busy over there? We'll wait. Just whenever you're ready. We'll be here lifting this rock. Just, you lost? You need help? Ron? Triwizard tasks are interesting, and only that they break up the mundane backtracking through the same 4 levels over and over again. The Dragon Chase has Harry flying away from the Horntail, which is on rails. It's fun for a little while, but it's a bit short. The Black Lake task is much longer and has you fighting off Grindylows in a sort of third-person shooter perspective while you swim around the Black Lake. It's okay for the most part, and it's probably the best out of the 3 tasks. The maze is another disgrace, presenting you with an isometric overview of the maze, making it very easy to see which way you need to go, in addition to there being a line of beans highlighting the way that you're supposed to go. There's then a brief section where you'll have to dodge the sides of the maze that come out to try to grab you, but other than that, it's pretty dull and there's really not much to it. It should also be noted that the 3 tasks can be completed individually within a few minutes of each other. The final battle against Lord Voldemort is probably the biggest disappointment of the game. You'll get to control the Priorium Incantatem spell and Harry with the same analog stick at the same time. It becomes confusing as to how to move both Harry and the spell together. It would have been better to have Harry locked to a horizontal plane and to have the player control the spell with the left analog stick and to control Harry with the right. The system here makes it awkward, and you'll be flailing around trying to get the spell to line up and hit obstacles in the way while moving Harry out of your way, and you're never really sure whether you can move Harry out of the way. Sometimes it snaps the correct way, and other times it just seems like you're fiddling with the controls until it just happens to work right. The real problem with Goblet will stem from how much you enjoyed the last 2 titles. The lack of RPG elements, free roam, and the more developed spellcasting system were some of the best elements from the past game, and the fact that EA chose to dumb the whole game down with linear levels and button mashing, it just seems a bit strange. Though the game does have a few moments, the atmosphere is dark and more fitting to the film it's based on, and since the game is pretty short, despite some of the faults I mentioned, the experience is over rather quickly. So if you're enjoying it, at least it doesn't wear on you for a very long time. The game also has the ability to allow for 2 human players to enter the game, which can fix most of the AI issues that I mentioned earlier. Overall, Goblet is more of a game that will leave you scratching your head in disbelief as to why EA chose to simplify everything and change all of the things that were clearly working for the Potter series. If you like backtracking and enjoy more of a button-mashing type of gameplay, then Goblet might not seem like such a bad game. So EA takes a bit of a stumble with Goblet of Fire. Will they be able to get back on track? Find out next time when we look at Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix.